What is
Thanks,
a?
Josh.
All right. All the meetings ordered.
But I haven't seen them.
No, cool, I'm not even present, so, voted on, so.
Tom,
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's my fault. How about you, Chris?
Alright, good evening everybody. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20. The chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. Anybody else? Lovely. We get to go on to roll call.
Oh, and we should note that everything is going to have to be roll call vote.
Yes, everything will have to be roll call vote. Luis O'Neill.
here.
Glenn Snell.
Here.
Butch Roberts.
Here.
Tom Cambereri.
Here.
Rob O'Leary. Z. Crocker.
Here.
Brian Hughes.
Here.
Scott Horsley.
Here, sort of.
Councillor Neary. Councillor Starr. Councillor Clark.
Here.
Lovely, we do have quorum.
Okay, I will take a motion to accept the minutes of August 12th, 25.
Second.
So moved.
Okay. Missed that one.
All right.
It's fine.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
It's got to be. It's got to be a roll call.
Gotta be a roll call.
Yep.
Because I was
As I said,
right.
We can do this quite quick. Luis O'Neill.
I have to abstain because I wasn't there.
Fair enough. Glenn Snell.
Yes.
Butch Roberts.
Yes.
Tom Cambereri.
Yes.
C. Crocker.
Yes.
Brian Hughes.
Yes.
Scott Horsley.
Yes.
Councillor Clark.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Obviously passes. You want me to do next meeting? All right, the next meeting, if we go about a month out, puts us at October 15th. If we go for the Tuesday, it is October 14th. The 13th, the town offices are closed due to Columbus/Indigenous Peoples Day. So the Selectmen's is actually free all day on the 14th, if we want that, at 5 p.m., unless anyone has any objections.
The 14th, you're saying?
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
October 14th.
Yes.
at 5.
At 5.
Yeah, we can do 5.
And where is that in Town Hall?
That is, in Town Hall.
Okay.
What's in the invite out, Chris?
Cool. 5 p.m. Let me write that here. 5 p.m. 10, what did I say? 14. At Selectmen's. Alright, cool. That's the next meeting settled. Good.
All right, the next meeting agenda item is review of proposed policy recommendations on IA technology implementations. I just want to make a comment first that so we are mandated to submit recommendations to Town Council on how to structure the town's next 5-year comprehensive wastewater management plan. This guide will guide the town's efforts to reduce wastewater caused by environmental degradation throughout Barnstable's land, fresh water, and marine waters. With the help of DPW, we've determined that nitrogen compounds coming from human waste via wastewater causes the largest amount of degradation. And been entering our environment for years and continues to enter. Wastewater does not get immediately enter the stream, flowing out to the ocean and set into our groundwater. This latter source remains in our groundwaters for a usual term of 5 years, with some much longer terms. So, removing waste nitrogen compounds from their sources through sewering and IA systems is necessary, but I say not sufficient. The source removal entirely eliminates or greatly reduces the nitrogen loading imposed on the local environment. Neither of these methods reduce nitrogen compounds already in the groundwater or degraded waterways. These sources will continue to send the compounds downgraded to the ocean for years to come. Human sources that are not currently or will never be sewered will continue to add to this load. So then, my recommendation to Town Council, to complement our current 30-year sewer project, the town must utilize multiple methods to reduce the land and marine nitrogen waste and environmental degradation. The multi-pronged approach should consist of continuing implementing a 30-year sewer project. The sewering, as we know, currently just moves the nitrogen source to the outflow of the town wastewater treatment plant, where it runs under one of the places my own property. Ensure the design and funding of the plant add-on that will remove this nitrogen. I believe this is already in progress to want to make sure and have the town council ensure. And then we move to requiring failing septic systems within 1,000 feet of nitrogen-sensitive waterways to be replaced by IA systems, and encourage owners of failing septic systems outside of this required area to also replace them with IA systems. That's what we'll be getting into detail just after this. Along with that, I suggest we recommend to Town Council to require retired cranberry bogs and restore them to their pre-bog state. Priority be given to bogs adjacent to populations currently not sewered or never planned to be sewered. Remove nitrogen compounds from stream banks that leach into streams, giving priority to streams based on the nitrogen loading contributed to the streams by the banks. And then implement other cost-effective proven methods of nitrogen removal from groundwater. These last 3 points I've just taken the time to mention because we are concentrating on IA systems as we need to present our recommendations to Town Council. However, as I said, that takes care of the current point sources down going forward, does nothing to reduce the rather large amounts of nitrogen we already have on groundwater. And to reduce the loading upon our streams and marine environment, I believe we have to work on removing these sources of nitrogen as well. And in a pragmatic matter, it may make Conservation Law Foundation happier. But that should be a secondary offense, secondary consideration. So I just lay that out for your consideration and something to add on to our recommendation to Town Council. That said.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure, please.
So, and Z, you might want to maybe weigh on this. So at one point you'd mentioned removing the nitrogen sources from stream banks. So
I have
what
a
did you
note on
mean by
that. I don't have the specifics. It was mentioned in one of our previous meetings. Z, anything?
No, I don't know about that. I'm not sure what.
I don't know what that would. I don't know what that would
that's
look like.
right.
Unless you're talking about removing the soil itself and then rebuilding it with soil that hasn't.
I can only expect that we were probably referring to the fact that houses that are also close to a stream are a source that we want to also address.
That makes sense. That I understand.
That,
Yeah,
Yeah.
for their groundwater.
yeah, that to me is like,
Okay.
you're going to do the 1,000 feet, you should do it 1,000 feet from the streams too.
Yeah. No, that I get. I just when you said it made it sound like there was
I think that's what it is.
something we would do in the
I
stream
defer to you,
banks.
that sounds.
Yeah, no, I think that's what it is. Okay.
Okay.
That's
Chris has taken a shot at trying to coalesce everything we've been hearing
right.
over the years, over the however much time we've been here.
It's a pretty good shot. There's a lot of stuff in here.
So take a
If
look.
anyone needs a
Oh,
hard
there's more
copy.
stuff. Okay. No,
Well, this is what I
This
sent.
is what you said. I printed
This is what I sent a few hours ago,
Yeah.
I have that.
knowing that I didn't give exactly very much time. Printed it out.
So what you read was, you're thinking that's would be kind of an introduction to these? Is that, I wasn't sure what you were reading.
Both an introduction to and also addition to.
Yeah.
Because I've come to realize, thinking about it over the past couple of months, that what we've been focused on, if we need to, is the point sources. And sewering and IA systems to remove those, but it does nothing to clean up the groundwater in our streams. And so I just propose that we recommend also actions be taken to look into that, to see how we can address that.
Okay, and does that be something that we did review or hand out, or is that we're voting on that today? I'm not sure what we're doing.
I don't,
actually
there's
today.
nothing to be handed out yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What we were thinking was going to happen today was, what we talked to Scott about, Scott, jump in if I misstate this, was that we would try to coalesce the language we've been hearing for the past couple meetings into actual language that could potentially then be used to go to town council and vote on that. I think, Brian, what you're talking about sounds like a preamble of some type or something like that.
No, I'm in addition. This is vital, as I said, necessary, but I do not believe it's sufficient to completely work to the best of our ability on removing nitrogen.
Okay.
No, look, and look, I'm going to talk my own, project that everybody's pretty darn aware of, and I totally agree with you, Brian, that if we're going to recommend stuff to town council, one of the key things ought to be the one thing that can probably remove the most nitrogen the soonest at the lowest cost, which would be a cranberry bog restoration, and probably not only the one we're working on, but others that could be looked at, understood, and targeted. It may be that site at Bums River, which the town didn't get an opportunity to buy. That may be another good opportunity to say, that one also could be collectively very important. So yeah, to me, that clearly should be something that should be within the package, but I'm not sure we need to get lost on that today. With Scott, you're back there. There's a lot here to talk about for IA technology.
No, I do not mean to hijack this. I just
You
want
didn't
to check
hijack
this
it,
in.
don't worry. We're all on the bus together.
Is your
Yeah.
go ahead.
Can you scroll that down a little bit, Chris? But I have one question about. Well, actually, before you do that, it says within 1,000 feet of a nitrogen-sensitive body. There's a footnote there. One. Remember, we talked about how do we determine where that boundary is, where the measuring point is. So let's see. What's the definition here? As defined by Title V.
Yeah, Title V.
I guess you go back up again. I mean, the question is high tide, low tide. How do we measure it? Have we talked about that?
Mean low water is usually the standard for.
I recommend going by the MassGIS property lines data layer because it's something that's very accessible. You can pull it up on MassGIS. It's on our Town of Barnstable property map system. And then unless someone wants to refute their property line or someone else's property line to 1,000 feet back. But I think that would be a good layer to use.
So the property line that shows the edge of water.
Yeah.
In those cases. Yeah, that sounds good because if you go to mean low water, sometimes you lose a lot of room there. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's
In some
title.
places it would be a lot of room.
Yeah.
But Amber, the GIS system, when I bring it up, says this is not to be used for any sort of.
Yeah, I was just looking for that language to reference.
True, but are you going to accurately define everyone's property line in order to measure exactly 1,000 feet back? Also, I think mean low water line or mean water lines change over time as well.
Yeah.
So.
The other thing to remember here is that, and if I misinterpreted what the committee's been saying, please correct me, but that 1,000 feet is, arbitrary is not the right word, but we were trying to coalesce on a distance back, not necessarily science-based, because there really wasn't the science to point to it, but just sort of where we thought was correct. If you go with the GIS line, if it's 5 feet from the mean low line, at the end of the day, you've captured pretty much a lot for getting going and trying to figure out how this works and that sort of stuff. Do you want us to read this? Is anybody capable of reading it? Do we want to go through this, or do we want to just dive into it for questions on this?
I think Scott just raised his hand, or was that just?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Go.
Rob, I guess the other question I have is the second one: 1,000 feet of surface water body that feeds into a nitrogen-sensitive body. Clearly, I think to me that means the Marston's Mills River. But what about a pond that's not connected via surface water? A pond is surface water, and it does feed into a nitrogen-sensitive area via groundwater. So would this mean within 1,000 feet of all ponds? Also, I can't.
That as we wrote it, and again, we were just trying to capture what the committee said. I didn't personally think of that reference. I thought of it as you talked about Marston's Mills River, things that, Centerville River, if it were happened to be in the case, but, things of that nature where there's there's a direct connection to the nitrogen sensitive water body. Certainly, this is a recommendation. The committee can do what it wishes with it, but we were just trying to capture what the committee was saying.
Yeah, and this is great. I think this is a great draft. I guess maybe we just need to clarify about feeding into, I guess the intent, I think, is via surface water, not via groundwater, right?
Yep.
So maybe whatever that footnote is, maybe there's another footnote or something to clarify that.
I think say something like at a later date, it should be examined and potentially recommended 1,000 feet within any water body like ponds. To me, the future needs to be when we have confidence that there is a phosphorus system that can be part of the effort.
My hope
That's
is
how I would look at it.
5 years from now when we reconvene this thing,
Right.
at that point, 5 years ago we didn't have the work that
Right,
was
we
done on
didn't have any of
nitrogen.
it, so I think we would. I think that's right. Yeah.
5 years from now when we reconvene this thing, that now all of a sudden phosphorus IAs are a viable tool to have a conversation about.
Right.
I was at a presentation at a networking meeting though when Christy Senatori said that the data that they've got from their work has shown that some of the ponds are already not able to take out as much nitrogen as being pumped through the groundwater.
Mhm.
So I still don't see why we shouldn't make this a townwide requirement as opposed to limiting to 1,000. Which they're still putting nitrogen into the ground water. So
Which will eventually flow into.
correct. So why wouldn't we just say Title V systems don't work and aren't allowed to be replaced? We're only talking about when it only gets triggered when there's an event happening. So it's not like you're saying across the town, everybody has to change their system. All we're saying is that the Title V systems are adding nitrogen to the groundwater throughout the town, and we want to stop that.
I think what Z is saying is that phosphorus systems should be coming through quickly. That we making people put in nitrogen systems, and then making them switch, or seems to be.
Well, we're not necessarily making them switch at this point. I mean,
but phosphorus systems would be more if you're sort of if you're upstream from a pond. It's better if you put in a phosphorus system in 5 years than putting in a nitrogen system now, I think.
But we're saying only if it breaks or if you're switching title to somebody else.
Triggered, okay.
Well, maybe one of the things that could be done, because it's going to be a timeline, it's going to be a conversation about phosphorus versus no phosphorus. But one of the things the collective we or the town or we could recommend to do would be to identify exactly which zones within all of our pond and lake water bodies are the contributing areas. Because it's not all over the place, right? It's not the whole pond wherever it is. It's really going to be some fraction of the pond that we really want to target. So if we can do that.
But to what you've learned, is that a based on current understanding, or is that we do a study at each one? Because as you found out with Schuylkill's, we all thought it was going one way, and it turns out it was going another.
I think you study it. I don't think it's that hard.
All right, but I'm just saying.
That's what I'm.
Is it based on the current? We think it goes this way, or
no, I don't think it should be just on
study on
modeling. I actually think it should be examined.
Do you want to do it on great ponds or all ponds? Because there's 185.
I think all significant ponds. I don't know anything over 10 acres.
63.
Well, that's great ponds.
It's 100
Yeah,
ponds.
the great
Okay.
ponds.
Whatever the number is.
Yeah, I'm not
That's just one,
disagreeing.
it's just one suggestion. It's not a perfect suggestion. I'm just thinking about how to. To me, that's a version of 1,000 feet within a water body is to pick the actual ones that are most likely to be the significant ones. Just an idea. I'm not the oracle of ponds. You are.
absolutely not. I think we know the Title V's are contributing nitrogen into the groundwater table, and we know that's a problem. So I don't see why we should allow them to be put in anywhere in town for that matter. And I agree that when phosphorus systems come along,
That'll be a part.
we're going to want to do that. But, and even thinking down the road, if someone's put in a nitrogen system and they're not changing their system, are we really going to require them to change it to a phosphorus system? I don't see that as being a problem either.
So you're questioning the actual 1,000 feet as well as the wording saying nitrogen sensitive. Those are the two items you're, okay. You think those are too limiting to go forward with those?
Well, it sounds like to me you're kind of saying go big or go home. What we've kind of said here is how do we engineer something that's manageable enough that we can start the process, which is, I think, probably something that's more likely to be adopted without speaking for town council. You know, but I think it would be nice if there was a king of Barnstable, which you never know who knows in this world who's going to show up. But
We seem to be presented with three options now.
Yeah.
It's all ponds.
Right.
It's ponds that have been studied individually, or 1,000 feet. Those two. 1,000 feet seems to be the easiest,
Well, wait a minute, maybe I
but it's
misunderstood
not
you.
necessarily sufficient.
What Butch was saying is instead of trying to delineate all that,
Right. You
Just say
everyone
everyone.
down.
Everybody, that's what I heard, yeah,
is that my understanding you
Fourth
correctly?
option, everybody.
yeah.
Correct. If you have to replace your
Yeah,
Title
I
V,
get it. You know, it was just like when we
not-
all went from cesspools to Title V. When something naturally happens, you're not allowed to put a Title V back. You got to put back something else.
So we just have to figure out what the nexus of that is for the town to say that's what we need to do in the face of the regulations that are identified the nitrogen sensitive areas under Title V.
Right, because that would get challenged legally.
It would get challenged legally, I believe, yeah, but I mean, there's enough science out there to say, you know, well, the nitrogen's bad for the, you know, not bad, but that's what we're saying for the aquifer, and therefore in the town of Barnstable, no more Title V systems. But that's given the regulatory, driver, for the CWMP for this $1.4 billion plan that we're implementing just within those areas. It's another level of magnitude of resources that we're asking the homeowners to do, not the towns under the CWMP, unless we're coming up with a new finance issue. It's kind of it's difficult it's difficult if we start to think of all the the roadblocks.
Scott, right?
No, I did not.
Scott had him. So did Councilor Scott.
Chris had her hand up
Yes,
too.
that's fine. But Brian, Scott's got his hand up.
Oh, excuse me, what was that?
Scott.
Scott.
Weigh in a couple thoughts. While I think it's great to think about making this more expansive, and I probably would support that, I'm remembering what I hear Z say frequently: "Don't let perfect get in the way of good." And I think this draft of 1,000 feet is a really good starting point. Let's remember that these still are technologies that are, don't have general approval. And there are some people that push back against that, although I'm thrilled that we've got the Board of Health willing, it seems, to participate. So it seems to me this is a really good starting point, 1,000 feet. It's relatively fast response time in terms of flow time. And I think I heard somebody say something about costs of the homeowner. I do want to, once we get through this, I do have a request of the committee to pursue some financing assistance, but I think it's not directly related to this, so I'm going to hold off on that until we finish this discussion. But my thought would be that I think that Rob's done a great job drafting this, and I think while it's not ideal to some of us, it's, I think, a really good starting point.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Am I to assume that these will be a zoning proposal?
A what proposal?
a zoning change proposal?
Probably health regulation.
Most likely be a health regulation.
Yeah,
Oh, a health reg, because I was gonna say, if you need to adopt a zoning change, that's 2/3 of a
that's
council.
true, yes.
So I'm just saying that if you're looking for buy-in,
You know, Counselor, one of the things that, which I understand your point, because I started there, way back at the beginning of this. You represent a section of town that currently is not going to be touched by the CWMP
Yeah.
in most way, shapes, or forms. Your proposal would all of a sudden put them all into the crosshairs on that. Putting your counselor hat on, not your committee hat, how would that go over?
look, any counselor is gonna hear, we don't want to be inconvenienced or have more expense, so it will not go over very well.
Yeah,
In general, I imagine, but I guess however this comes down, we'd have to make the justification very clear and lay out some paths for financing.
just, and I only bring that up just because back to the conversation of death, perfect being the death of good. Because I agree with you, in an ideal world, you just would never put a Title V back. There's just no point at this point. There's better technologies, etc. But my guess is we're going to have a hard enough time getting this rock up the hill.
Well, I guess part of my thinking was the town council has the opportunity to modify it or shoot it down. But if we lose momentum here, then it's never going to get to the county.
So how about this? I have a suggestion. How about if the proposal includes a proposal to have town council pursue the legislature to allow the town to provide tax incentives of some kind. Could be tax forgiveness, could be, there's different structures that are possible. But we know, because we've heard from Mark Milne, that those would have to be approved at the state legislature. You couldn't just do it. Even if town council said, great, let's do it, you can't do it. But if we table that, knowing that that alone will take several years, it's not going to happen right away. That may just become a great tool in the toolbox, finance-wise, that doesn't say you have to use it, but it provides the tool to use it, when and if, right? I mean, that to me, that might be a good way to start to address what you're talking about. I agree with you 100%. We all think the same thing, but we need the tools, the mechanisms to get there because, the buck stops here, so to speak, and it's not a short answer. Whatever the solution is going to cost a lot of money.
If everyone's comfortable with number 1 on this, can we scroll down to number, is it 2, Chris? Is that the EDU one?
Number
No,
3.
3.
Amber, did you want to say something?
No, I'm all right.
So number 3 is actually came from the Board of Health, which is going back to your ADU conversation earlier. It's them sort of thinking about that and regurgitating it back in terms of how they want to look at it. So this language, we just sort of prettied it up, but this came from Tom. I don't necessarily know that is locked into that 1,000-foot buffer. I think that, to your point, is more town-wide. So if you look at it sort of like the carrot and the stick, the carrot is everywhere.
Right.
The stick being that if you're in 1,000 feet, you're doing this, is strictly within that 1,000-foot zone. So you get a little bit of what you're looking for with 3, not all of it, obviously, but you
That's a
get
good
some.
point.
With 3 based on individual choices because they can do something additional.
I saw that. I thought that was very good.
And credit to them, that came from them. But by the way, the other language came from Chris. Chris has done the lion's share of the work on this. Good stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
And it does help encourage people to create ADUs.
But I just want to speak to that whole town versus 1,000 part. You touch it, it's not perfect, but it's something to start that conversation out.
At the very least, maybe in the preamble, we could talk about that.
I mean, you could even potentially further sweeten it by saying an ADU or additional bedrooms,
You took the words right out of my mouth.
you know,
Yeah, I was just gonna say
What?
the same. I was just going to say the same thing.
yeah, adding up to, but not, you know, going over the 660, then that gives a lot of flexibility to people.
Would extra bedrooms have to be a zoning change in any case?
I think it's driven by the Board of Health, I think. Isn't it?
There may be,
I
I'm more familiar with the Board of Health regulations and zoning
I think-
regulations. There may be a zoning regulation.
You're typically
lines.
limited by septic systems. You're typically limited by septic systems for a single family.
So, but as soon as you put the sewer in, you
Oh,
lose that.
no, this is just to see if you guys are even interested in it.
So,
Currently,
Once,
yeah,
once that happens.
so Board of, so,
No, not necessarily. When we were putting up our new unit, just as we're getting sewer, we were going in sewer, but we were told we had to limit our number of bedrooms to what had been in the previously septic system house.
no,
We were told that
yeah, no,
by the town.
if you live on Finney's Lane, you can put in 8 bedrooms now for one.
And that-
I believe that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding of it, and I'm not health, is that the moment that there's a sewer in front of your house, that requirement goes away.
think it goes
Wish
away.
someone had told.
Griffin, what, does it go away or not go away?
My understanding is there's not a restriction.
Right.
They used Title V for zoning for so long,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that the moment there's a sewer sitting there, you're no longer underneath that. You can do pretty much what you want until they decide to put different zoning.
So you can go down Strawberry Hill Road and see some of the changes right away.
13
can?
years ago,
Oh, yeah,
the town
they're right
didn't
there.
understand that when they gave us.
Huge
Right.
houses going up right
Yeah.
now on Strawberry Hill Road. And the same thing happened in Common Fields there in
Yeah.
Barnstable Village when the sewer went in '79.
Mhm.
You know, all of a sudden, you know, you had a lot that was restricted because you had a septic system. Well, you didn't need the septic system anymore.
yeah.
And everybody started, you know,
Make her bigger.
making a bigger footprint as well as, you know, more bedrooms. It's surprising. It's kind of contained as it is with all that.
Yeah, some people don't think that it'll be a big deal town-wide, but I personally think that the Board of Health should put a limit on the number of beds. It should be whatever Title V allowed plus one. We also have a flow neutral policy, which says that we can't through the CWMP, we can't produce more effluent than the plan allows.
Except now we're saying Title V plus 2
Whereas
with an ADU.
Yeah.
Just saying. You know, in my mind, the thing is, wastewater should not be zoning control.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line, as far as I'm concerned. Zoning should be zoning. So if we want to zone and say no more than whatever, and even then, bedrooms are a blunt instrument, as far as I'm concerned. You know, I see people with, you know, on Oyster Harbors with 6 or 7 bedrooms and 17 or 20 bathrooms. It's crazy, right? And then there are rooms that are really actually bedrooms and all that kind of stuff. So I you know, I mean, my point is zoning, I think, is what needs to be tackled. I don't think we can go down that road here,
No.
but it's, you know, it's, to me, the ultimate consideration. Just me.
We've been using Title V for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where's the 660 come from? Is that, I mean, I know that's in the regulations and it's like a
No,
440.
we talked about it was actually
Yeah.
in certain zones it's really 330 and not 440, right?
Exactly,
440 came from the other state regulations.
State regulation.
Which we, you know, added on to or changed to say 330. But when our Board of Health friends were here, as I recall, they were referring to the 660 and talking about the 440 and not what you talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, the devil's in the details, so we got to figure some of that out. So
Yeah.
you know, it's
So let's kind of star that to figure that out.
Yeah, this came from Board of
Yeah.
Health, so this is
Right.
their number.
I've got
It is.
So
I have an explanation. Bear with me 2 seconds. In my
But I think a lot of this really, Tom, came, you know, Rob was the one who said we ought to start talking about load and not flow.
Yeah.
Because if we really do the math, right, if we're, my hope would be that we gate systems by some number, 10 milligrams, whatever it is, And if it's 10, then we can be pretty comfortable that even with this, it's a net win, a substantial win, right? Because you're still going to see a reduction, even with 2 bedrooms, probably of 70% over what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the state regulation was anticipating a treatment of 19 from 35 back in the day.
That's
Some
right.
of those ideas, that was optimistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
So this comes from Tom McKean. After the last meeting, I reached out with the question about the 440 gallons. What's what hampers that? So his response is, please note that it is presently allowable for limited circumstances, specifically on small lots with proposals of less than 4 bedrooms within Zone 2 nitrogen-sensitive areas, as per Section 310 CMR 15217. Please also note there is a variance provision provided within the Town of Barnstable Code, Article 15, Protection of Estuaries. It provides each applicant the ability to propose innovative alternative technology in order to exceed the flow restrictions. However, there is no option provided within the Town of Barnstable Code, Chapter 232, Wastewater Discharge, for an applicant to introduce enhanced innovative alternative technology as an option to providing additional wastewater discharges, i.e. to construct additional bedrooms, within a GP or WP district of greater than 330 gallons on parcels of less than 1.33 acres in size. These 2 districts cover approximately 60% of the town. We receive many inquiries. The Barnstable Health Department receives many inquiries each month, and applicants are faced with this roadblock issue. To fix the problem, this committee could propose to the Town Council adoption of an amendment to this code to provide a variance provision similar to the variance of the Estuary Protection Code.
Ultimately, the IA approval process from DEP allows for a greater loading per acre.
Right.
660 is the number that has been traditionally used for nitrogen systems. That's where they came up with the 660.
Right.
And I'm looking on the website right now. There is reference to 660 for the Nitrex. The Nitro, they don't seem to have a reference for some reason at this point. But the presumption would be that it would be 660. Because that's what they have for the other nitrogen systems. So I think that's where they came with that number.
Okay. And that's the state regulation.
That's right on the state's website.
But it's not, the towns on the Cape have interpreted the nitrogen flow to be like 330 per acre. And most of the regulations you look at, on the town, in the towns, in the town of Barnstable, what is it, 1.33?
The 330 gallons per 1.
The international
330
overlay
gallons
establishes that. Correct.
Yeah, for a 1.3 acre site. So I just think we need to just say, oh, it's a state regulation. In the face of what our regulations have indicate. It just needs to be reconciled. That's all I'm saying. I'd be glad to look at it in more detail. Talk to.
Do town regulations override the state in this case?
Yeah.
They can be more
Oh yeah.
restrictive.
There's more stringent
Yeah.
regulations, and that's what the towns have done on the Cape. Because the towns on the Cape Cod came up with the nitrogen loading formula way before the state ever came up with it, and I think Scott had something to do with it too. And so it's always like 330 per acre was or 4 per 40,000 square feet was the regulation that was pretty
Well,
much
it's a
adopted.
complicated kettle of fish.
Oh, it is, because it's just like.
And part of my problem with all that is when we looked at the water usage, those numbers are vastly different than that number, right? 330, we couldn't. It's hard to get to 330 for even
Because
of water constricted and with different devices, all that kind of good stuff. So,
actual flows are probably half of 330.
Right.
Per
I think so.
residential.
I think so.
Yeah.
So
So then if we're allowing 660, are we allowing 660 was the engineering conservative one, or are we allowing 330 as a load thing? That's kind of what we need to figure.
yeah, I mean, in my mind, we gate it by the milligrams per liter of whatever the systems are.
Oh, I agree. Yeah,
That's how I
kind of a
look at it.
mass load, and let's use the best piece we can for that. I'm just not sure if it's just
Yeah, Scott, what are you, where are you? You're in Stowe, wake up.
No, I'm here. I'm listening. I like I said, I think this draft is pretty good. I'm hearing all the other ideas, and I like them all. But I want to go forward with something that's going to have some acceptance. The council. I guess I'd like to ask Chris her thoughts on how this might be received at the council level. We've had some pretty good dialogue with the health department and the board of health. Tom, the chair. But I'm wondering, town council, Chris, what do you think?
Depends, when it comes to us, there's an election in a couple of months, and it's gonna change the landscape for us a little bit.
I mean, what's drafted here seems very reasonable to me. We could go further, but I think it's a really good start. So I don't know. I'm pretty comfortable with it.
But I do think, Tom, that since you brought it up, you'd be great to volunteer to figure out how do we reconcile this, because we're going to have to. Because otherwise, people are going to, lawyers are going to get involved. They're going to say, well, this is 330, and this is 440, and this is 660, and so what are we really doing here, right? So I mean, if we're going to do this and say it's 660, we need to justify it and decide where it goes and how it works.
Yeah,
I think
I would agree.
the extent you can help figure that out, I think would be really important, because just putting the proposal forward without understanding the granularity of it isn't going to be useful.
So is the best approach then, you have this now, sit on it for the month, chew on it for a month, no day to vote today, and then come back when we're back in whatever month that is, October, and take a vote on it then after you've had a month to chew on it, amend it as you wish, and then vote on it then? Is that going on here?
Yeah, we may need your help to figure out how do we do that.
We're not
because
washing our hands of it, but it just sounds like the committee wants to chew on aspects of it.
So I think Tom's point is we can't have a regulation that's then usurped by another regulation. That's not going to make any sense.
Got it. Counselor, from you alluded to sort of prior to and post-election may be different temperaments. Is your feeling that we're better to be prior to or better to be post?
I don't think that we're going to have a choice. I don't think that this is.
No, we're not going to be ready.
Yeah, this is not going to advance something.
And it seems a bit silly to give something to town council 3 or 4 weeks before they get elected.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think. I think it'll look rushed and do no favors to us.
So I would ask Kelly a question about how would we roll this out to the public? I mean, we need to have some kind of forum where we bring everybody together and say, come and we'll show you the maps and go through our thinking.
I mean,
how we got there.
That could definitely be a possibility.
Yeah,
I think.
I'm not asking.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be. We have to put together an actual communications campaign, similar to how we would before any project kicks off. Obviously, I wasn't here when we started the CWMP when we actually broke ground. So, but I know there's a lot of work done to educate folks ahead of that. So it would be very similar, kind of like the road shows that Rob had done in the past. I don't think it's just one meeting. I think it's going to have to be a series of things. We've had a lot of success with print mailing. We actually have our own postage machine now because of how much print mail we do, because that seems to be the most receptive. People are most receptive to that. But it's going to have to be a multi-faceted campaign for sure.
Yeah.
So certainly from seeing how other issues in the town have caused some concern, let's say, amongst residents, the more communication before it happens, the better.
But as a committee, we report to the town council.
Oh, absolutely.
So
we
is it incumbent upon us as a committee to do the outreach and stuff prior to town council?
No, I think this would be well after town council has voted, things have been adopted, obviously we could talk about what the communications process would look like to communicate to folks that we are going to be having these conversations at town council, because I do think that is something that a lot of people are frustrated or express frustration over, that they don't know certain things are coming up at town council. So that would be something to consider, but that would be our team would handle that. We wouldn't expect the committee would certainly take feedback, but we wouldn't expect you to execute that.
So like a workshop or something like that before town council is advertised.
Chris?
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering, unless there's issues in this, and thanks for putting this together, pretty easy to scan through. Perhaps this should go before the Board of Health and see if they have any objections to this draft. I mean, I know it's been bounced back to them already, but say going forward, do they? What I'm suggesting is we start raising the profile. There will be a meeting at which it'll be televised, and then there'll be some news. It'll be a documented draft, and perhaps the public will get a peek at what's coming down, and it'll tease out some of the feedback.
Are you ready for that? I don't disagree with that necessarily. Once you guys have voted and said, yeah, this is what we want to take to town council, what I wouldn't want to do is take product A to the Board of Health, go through that process, come back, and then say, we really want to change this, and this to something else, and then we're going to go back and do it again. And at some point in time, the Board of Health can be like, just wait till you get done and then come tell us what you want to do. You know what I mean? I don't want to cry wolf to them.
Yeah, I hear you. But on the other hand, if they're the ones going to be making the decisions and hearing any petitions for variances, that they're the ones, I forgot how somebody said, go to the people who are grinding it out, hearing the problems. So if the Board of Health is the one who's going to be issuing permits for this, and just say, hey, I know, it's ZBA. We keep getting some suggestions that say to me anyways, please consider fixing this because we keep hearing the same issue over and over again. So my point is, if we went to the Board of Health and say, how can you address the public coming before you with individual petitions or requests for variances? How could we lighten your agenda by adjusting the regulation? Am I making myself clear?
It can't hurt to have two Toms take a look at it and weigh in. I mean, go ahead, Scott's up there. Hello.
Yeah, I just want to, I think Chris's idea is excellent. I think whether we do it on this draft or the next draft, I think it would be really valuable and convincing if we went to the Board of Health and hopefully got some good feedback to report that to the town council. It seems to me that would really pave the way for this thing to really get adopted. And it seems to me we've got some traction with the Board of Health. So I think it's a great idea.
Why don't I suggest this? Because I've heard a couple different things tonight. So I heard there's some interest in Tom having a month to kind of get some things looked at in terms of the numbers. We can share this with Tom and Tom, not the board, but Tom Lee and Tom Ian. Because they've been staffing with us the whole way along. So we can certainly share this with them to get some initial feedback from them. In the meantime, the board can be thinking about, this board can be thinking about this and all that other stuff. We come back in next month, make a vote saying, yep, this is what we want to go forward with. We then can make a full run at, Scott as chair, DPW, whoever, can go to Board of Health, present to Board of Health what we're thinking, get Board of Health's buy-in, and then at some point show up in front of town council with hopefully a united front between Board of Health. I'd like to get Milton's buy-in and finance, and the whole suite of people sitting in front of town council saying this is something we all
Good idea, sure.
have all sort of vetted through. I would suggest going that way.
Yeah.
That's up to you
No,
guys.
that's good approach.
I like that.
Chris, you got that? Since I won't remember I said it.
There's a reason it's recorded, Rob.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I do think that the 660, if allowed to be adopted as something that could count also as bedrooms, has a lot of implications. Could create a lot of excitement. Which could drive a lot of adoption and could drive a lot of reduced nitrogen on the one hand. On the other hand, I could also see it leading to fears of mansionization and bigger houses in places where people may not want bigger houses. So I just think,
There's definitely a political movement right now, it feels like, only as an observer, not that I'm involved with in any way, shape, or form, that has recently changed from we need housing, we need housing, we need housing, to no housing, no housing, no housing. At least that's what I'm starting to hear too. So you may bump into them in the process of that because they'll look at that as facilitating housing.
Yeah.
So All of this is complicated, all of this is gonna just take time, and all of this is gonna be about. There'll be some constituency that's not happy about some aspect of it.
Well, let's keep plowing ahead.
I'm just wondering if, are we saying that we do not want to change 660 to milligrams per liter, or is that still on the table?
I think that's being discussed this next month, we're looking at that this next month.
I think we
That's
should just
what
need to
we're
figure out how it might work, so Tom's gonna look at it, or
Right.
maybe work with Griffin or something to figure out. It makes sense to me to adopt a state standard, but, you know, to Tom's point, there is a Cape Cod standard which has precedent, so how do we,
I think there's some
How do we
discussion
marry-
process that's needed with the town attorney's office as well.
Yeah, how do we
So what
marry
the
that?
appropriate chapter of
Right,
town code would be,
right,
stuff like that.
Right.
For instance, I see chapter 232 referenced here. That's actually a town council regulation and not a board of health regulation. So if we were amending that, it would actually go to the council.
right,
Is that the appropriate way? I don't know, but I was just looking at the town code, I'm like, that's a
yeah, so we
town
need to figure
council.
that out.
So,
Right.
yeah.
So we need a month to chew on this stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
There's some process that needs to be done.
So
that's a
this-
zoning district, right? That piece there. The,
Not necessarily, no.
Yeah.
In chapter 232, there's limitations about 330 gallons per day per acre within zone 2s, for instance. So it's
Yeah.
actually not all that dissimilar to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But that is a town council reg, so we would have to just find out if it would go that path or Board of Health or both or.
But so, just one, I don't want to drop Z made a great comment about that we're gonna work toward looking at the financial, whatever direction we can. You know, whether it's petitioning the state legislature, looking for incentives somehow. So
If I could come back to the financial conversation, there's 2 more pages to this I want to just get through real quick.
Yeah.
And then because Scott has some financial stuff he wants to talk about too. So we'll definitely get to, I just want to get to the next couple pages of this. Chris, you need to scroll another mouse. There's a couple other questions we need as this came up as we were looking at this. We kind of need the ad hoc committee to opine on. One was, this brings the stages back into focus. We have always, because the way that the wording is in the first 2 pages is if you're in phase 1 or 2, you're kind of excluded from this 1,000-foot thing. We've always said the stages are probably in phase 2, but it's not locked in as the plan. So the committee may want to, if it wishes, opine on that. Otherwise, DPW can just lock it. So that is a question that I think is worthy of at least a little conversation here. The second is the one below it, which is long, and I'll let you read it. But basically, it speaks to if somebody has previously put in an IA system that may or may not be compliant with the best available technology systems, are they grandfathered? When they come to the natural end of their life, do you treat them like a Title V, saying you now need to go back to the best available technology pool, or are you allowed to put back what you had? I think there's a conversation to be had about that. These are the things that, as we were batting this back and forth, we started coming up with some details and nuance that we thought the committee might want to opine on.
how are they being handled if a sewer runs in front of their property?
They have to connect.
They have to connect.
I mean, my view would be that they need to be either connected or replaced by a system that achieves whatever level we're adopting at large over some period of time. Maybe they get extra time, I don't know, although they may want to do it sooner rather than later because they're paying a lot of money right now probably to have these things monitored. Maybe there's some financial incentive for those 129 people who were trying to do the right thing. I don't think that's a terrible idea.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
What'd you say?
I said, I don't think they should be penalized.
Right, no,
for
I agree, they should
trying to
not,
do the right
let's
thing.
not penalize them for trying to do the right thing. That would be bad.
Well, I think one of the ways you could do it, one thing we talked about, is that you could let them run out their natural system life,
Right.
but when that system perishes, just like had it been a Title V, you now need to go back in the best available technology pool to select your next system. You don't get to just put back whatever they might have been. I like the name of the sledgehammer one, whatever that one was.
Yeah.
You don't get to, I don't even know what it is. I just like the name of it.
Yeah.
You don't get to put another sledgehammer back just because you had a sledgehammer. or something like that.
And chances are it'll be less expensive because technology will have
Right.
advanced by then.
I don't know.
Well,
Speculate.
fully approved technology will be monitored less than most of these systems, I believe. I don't know. They're not, well, anyway. I guess that some of them actually are fully approved, so maybe they're not being, but they're also not working, so.
Not working as well as they should, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So, all right, so that came up. So those are two
Okay.
additional questions that we'd like the committee to sort of chat about.
At the end of life, I heard that. That sounded reasonable. But
So
I
essentially
agree with
treat it
that.
as a Title V.
Yeah, it's a trade, yeah, so when it changes hands,
Yeah.
it fails, or if it's working.
Is that kind of universal? Does anybody disagree with that thinking, or should we just go with that?
I think I'm okay.
I think it's fine.
I'm okay with it.
Okay. Does anybody have a dog in the fight on the stages thing, or do you want us to just deal with that?
Deal with it.
my question on the staging would be, what's the cost of the staging? I've never seen cost numbers associated with the staging.
Do we have that?
I don't know offhand.
Okay. We can get it for you.
Well, I'm just curious, I don't know,
We
I'm not
need
sure
to
we can
do
afford
it.
phase two, so I don't know how we afford phase two plus stage two.
Well, we're doing, the staging is not optional. It's always separated from the phases because we weren't sure which way we were going to go with it.
Yeah, I get all that. I just,
So it's just a matter of, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It seemed like we kept, what we've talked about in-house is technologically, and i.e. the sewer will be available to be able to get to them. It's not happening before phase two because we got to get all the way down to them. So we've always sort of said phase two. But that's just been us talking internally. It's never been opined on by any committee, that sort of thing. So I didn't know if this committee wanted to opine on that, or if it's like, you guys, you're doing fine, keep doing it.
so just so I understand, is the phases 1 and 2, and then within the phases there are stages.
it's Katuitt.
Good to it.
Oh, they're,
Katuitt has stages that have been identified and mapped. But as far as maybe there's been engineering done in cost, I've never seen that.
So stages are outside the
The
CWMP.
stages are not in phase
Right.
1, 2, or 3. They are basically effectively 3 separate projects
Okay.
that don't have a time associated with
They're
them.
purple.
Day.
Purple.
Yeah.
See, that whole watershed was originally nitrogen treated, and then we heard from Gary Markowitz and others that
Right.
said, look, Shoestring Bay is getting hammered, you need to actually do something. We came back in and did this, but at that point in time, there's lots of conversations about JBCC. Jimmy Crocker was around at that point, those sorts of things, and so we left it hanging because we weren't sure if we were going to bring it back to us
Sure.
or send it across Sandwich and Mashpee to JBCC. Where was that going to go? That seems to have kind of come to some resolution at this point. It's pretty clear it's coming back to us. So we're working our way down 28. Once we get there, then we can grab it. What we've always sort of talked about is that's sort of a phase 2 thing just because of timing. But, to Dan's point, no committee's actually opined on that. That's just been us saying that.
most of the white areas around the stages would be covered by page 1 here, within 1,000 feet. Right?
Yeah.
So,
A lot of them would be.
right.
Yeah,
because they're not.
Yeah, because they're not
and
phase
2.
1, 2, or 3. They're not.
gonna get sewer, yeah.
So really, the question is: are the people in purple in that phase 1 or 2 exclusion? So if you read, what I'm saying? Like I said, the 1,000 foot says if you're in phase 1 or 2, we're not going to worry about you. We're worried about going phase 3 or white.
Yeah.
And what Chris and I came up against was, what are they? We think that they're phase 2. We've talked about there being phase 2, but this committee or others have not opined on the fact that they be phase 2, should be phase 3, should be whatever. Scott, you're to it. You may have a dog in that fight.
Yeah, we had a meeting in Katuitt recently that Rob came to and presented at, which was great. And, we're looking at, we want to clean up the drinking water there. We want to clean up the bay. So we're looking at any and all options, and definitely interested in these, how it fits into the CWMP.
Yeah, so looking at the distance, 1,000 feet from Shoestring Bay, that would be, it seemed like that would be included. Well, I'm not sure what else is there. Oh, you got Santuit River, right?
Santuit River, so it really all would be.
Little River, got Little River as well, too, yeah.
Great marshes down there somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think it would all be included, but if it's in phase 2, stage 2, then somebody's gonna say, well, they're gonna be here in, 10 years, so I don't have to do it, right? So I think that there's clarity that needs to be gotten around that, although we all know it's probably one of the most critical areas in the town, right? That's for sure. Shoestring Bay is disgusting. It's obviously, what percentage is our contribution? 15% or something like that?
It's like 9.
9, right.
And Mashpee's ripping sewers all the way up and down there right now, aren't they? On the other side? Is that right? Or is that down
They're doing
Mashpee
stuff
Neck?
on 151, I know that.
Yeah. Mashpee Neck, they're doing it. I forget if that's Mashpee Neck. I see the whole thing.
So going back to those questions, Chris, if you could.
Yeah, that is Mashpee Neck.
So for number one, the question is, I guess, does the committee wish to weigh in on that, or do you want DPW just to set a stake in the ground and go?
Well, why don't you guys think about it and come up with some cost numbers and likelihood or whatever, and we can then talk more about it and look at what are the options. And I don't think we picked up that in your 1,000-foot mapping, did we? I mean, it would be picked up, but I don't think we. I don't think
We included Papaneset back.
did we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of that is in 1,000.
Yeah, most.
I mean, I figure what the numbers were there.
I had at some
Okay,
point a comparison map, but I couldn't find it. I was you saw me rifling all my papers.
So the stages would fit into phase 2? They could be done at the same time?
Well,
A lot of work.
the phases are just a time construct.
Right.
What we would now do is just lock the stages into a time construct. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Versus having them as their own thing, sort of floating off by themselves, time in terms of time. That's really what we're talking about.
There's about 890 parcels within the stages.
In that area.
There's 890 parcels identified in the stages.
Okay. And I wonder how many are within 1,000 feet.
Well, I'm sure they all are.
I guess most
Yeah,
of them.
I'm sure they all are.
Really?
And that's a pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, given the time.
It's a big chunk of the numbers that we were looking at when we were looking at that 1,000-foot number. I thought. I don't know.
It seems like a far reach on the other side of town too. And when would that phase 2 ever? You said it was phase 2. When would it really
I just
be done? I mean,
forgive me for being skeptical. It's not the engineering I question.
I know.
It's the cost, and then are there other considerations, right, relative to cost?
Yeah,
We talked about, could that be an area where some kind of a smaller cluster system might make sense?
Residual.
I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
yeah, that's an
Okay, so there it is. You're right over there.
Yeah, it's, it's mostly in there.
Okay,
We don't have it broken up
The
by
other way.
watershed.
Go the other way, Chris.
No,
Chris.
go down.
other way.
You had it. You went the wrong
I see
way.
what you're saying, he's looking at the parcel section of the parcel.
Yeah, so there's, it looks like there are some in the stages that are outside of 1,000 feet.
Okay,
Looks like about 100. Roughly.
but not a lot. So
Yeah, it's about
some
100.
pretty big numbers. Okay.
All right, so we can bring that back to you. If you can go to the third page, Chris, or the third set of pages. So those other items as we went through this that the committee has discussed and that we didn't get wrapped into these recommendations, we just wanted to be transparent about we didn't and wanted to put them out there to let people know and see if they wanted to come back to them.
Okay.
The first one was the cesspool conversation. Early on, there was a conversation about should you do all cesspools. There was some counter debate about it really doesn't get you anything for the effort, that sort of stuff. So it's not in as of right now, but we want to be transparent that it wasn't. It should be financial piece we've talked about. We're going to come back to. Should any recommendations meet on the Board of Health's potential policy regarding the 100-foot from a water body? Remember Tom McKean being here saying there's some low-hanging fruit that he had with that 100-foot from water body. He could do it tomorrow. Just wanted to make sure we acknowledge that. And then my phase 3 conversation was the last one. So again, these aren't things you just have to act on, but as you're thinking about the first 2 pages, wanted to make sure we at least acknowledge these are other areas that got discussed. And if at this moment sort of fall a little bit by the wayside, other than the financial, which we're going to come back to.
Did he have plans to go to 100 feet?
No, what he was, I understood what he said, and he was saying, like literally what I'm saying, was that they already have some regulations on the books that he felt like starting, I think he said literally tomorrow, he could start enforcing that if you're within 100 feet of a water body, you'd have to do IAs.
Right.
And then that kind of got into the 100 versus 500 versus 1,000. The 1,000 in our mind overcomes this, but maybe there's some nuance to this that we're not aware of or picking up on that you guys have picked up on. And so we just wanted to acknowledge the fact that we think the 1,000 overcomes the 100. But maybe
It does, but the 100 may be outside of the area that we're talking about for 1,000.
Yeah, maybe the 100's townwide.
Right,
I don't know.
so I think
Right.
it's,
Yeah, it is.
So back to
The
what you
100 is like environmental buffers or
yeah, I
something
think it's
along those
townwide, so that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that may be a separate recommendation then that you want to put in. So anyway, we just want to acknowledge it here so that we recapture it.
And to me, the cesspools, if we bring to upgrade any cesspool that fails, that we find out about, should be upgraded to
Well,
one of the new technologies, I'd say, to Butch's point, but I don't know if we can figure out a way to make that happen outside of.
Well, I mean, the way we
Yes,
talked
they
about
are.
it is, as I've understood it, and Griffin, you're more familiar with this than I am, is that cesspools by definition are you're not supposed to have them.
Right.
You know, so it's really a matter of inspection to find them.
Right.
You know, so is it worth trying to do some GIS map backing out where potential homes are and go inspecting those homes to find out if there's cesspools there? And then the conversation came up, Dan was involved with it. I think you might have been, someone else was. Well, sort of, you're only going to get about, actually, Tom, you were.
Yeah.
You know, you're only going to get about 50% knock anyways. It's not, the juice, you know, to use Andy Clyburn's famous expression, the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and I think that's where it got left.
Yeah, well, that's a question where you do penalize them just because they had a cesspool. The longest lasting people in town have had a cesspool. So if they're outside of nitrogen sensitive area, you penalize them and have them put one in if
Yeah,
other folks aren't.
I'm okay with that.
I think the one thing we could change is the idea that you could just pass it on, though, like it's an inheritance.
The trigger.
That's
How it has to be.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So the same thing we're saying for IA systems,
Largely.
failure or title change.
Yeah, but right now, if you have a house and you tell it to your child, and it has a cesspool, you can keep it.
Right.
Yeah.
If you do that, is it considered a title change?
That's
Like,
what
if you
my
give,
question is.
if you give it to your
A lot of-
kids,
A lot of times it's a trust.
Yeah.
That's kind of the loophole. But also, if you're not getting a mortgage, you don't necessarily need an inspection. If you're doing a cash buy, they don't need one.
Yeah, yeah.
You always find it on
So it's in the
inspections.
details of the transfer as to how they get caught. Caught's the wrong word, but how you find it.
it's identified.
Yeah.
Is it possible if somebody has a cesspool and they're not in the nitrogen sensitive area, they can put in a Title V, that we could require the Title V have enough room between the tank and the leaching field so that you can come in and drop in an AI system later on, if there's room? I mean,
But if it's part of the Title V regs anyway, is it not? You gotta have an expansion area, so you really automatically have that.
for the leaching field, right?
No, I think it's an expansion for the leaching
For the
field.
leaching
leaching
field.
field.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
designated, so you can't put something else in it theoretically.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have space between the tank and.
Yeah, 100%, I agree.
But you were going to say something?
Well, I was just going to comment, if they're already going to all the work to put in a Title V system, why don't we just have them put in a
Yeah.
system that works?
I agree.
So these are, I think this is the last page, right, Chris?
There is one more page, the questions for town council.
So these were the other items that we previously discussed. We just want to make sure you had them, so you have them in your packets. One more page then, please, Chris.
This is an interesting one.
So there was this item we got discussed, I think it's 2 meetings ago.
Came up last week.
Yeah,
Was it?
it's been discussed a few times.
And so we just wanted to kind of capture it. It's here for conversation and whether we want to do something with it.
So why should I be asked to subsidize a septic system?
The reason why, with the argument, and I'm always devil's advocating here,
Yeah.
is that they would argue, why should we, through our taxes and otherwise, be asked to subsidize your sewer system? So it's trying to provide, so I'm sure you've heard constituents already that said,
Oh, yeah.
we're not paying a dime towards these sewers,
No, definitely.
which 50% of the cost is already covered because they are paying already.
Exactly.
So it's trying to provide some benefit to people in that situation where they're never going to get the benefit of the actual sewer itself. Again, I'm devil's advocate. I'm not advocating as an individual.
Chris?
No, that definitely was a thing. That was the primary difference in the point of view between me as a candidate and Phil Wallace when I first ran. And I got plenty of people who told me, we don't want to pay for that high-end a sewer. We in West Barnstable, and that was their perspective. So I can understand this, but I'm not so sure that this will be appreciated as a gift to benefit.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not so sure that you'll get the warm reception. How do I want to say? And cause more indigestion over the covering the cost at the sewage treatment plant. I'm glad that you put that evaluation in here from Andrew.
Do
An
we
incentive.
have any sense of what the numbers are of septics that would be covered by this?
Septic systems in the white areas.
Yeah.
Basically, it's the white areas.
Yeah.
Did we backward calculate so we know what was not? But yeah, I don't think we have the top of our heads.
And we previously talked about having someone come up with inventory of cesspool systems by doing a subtraction.
Right.
That
Sort of
not,
died as the conversation petered out, and that effort stopped with that. I think if you look at it, there's 20,000 lots in town or something. I mean, rough numbers.
27.
We're touching roughly 11,000 something.
And there's 4,000 that
I
are
thought it was 27, 12 new,
12 new, 4
35,
existing.
38 existing,
Yeah.
something like that.
So 16, so 27 minus 16.
Right, so, right.
Basically 11,000 lots.
Right.
So let's say 11,000 such existing plant. Real rough math.
It's around that. I think that's around accurate.
Were those
I don't know how we
figures
do it,
again?
'cause I don't know how we afford it, to your point.
Yeah.
I mean, and one of the things gonna happen with IA systems is people are gonna have to pump them because they're gonna get monitored and you're gonna have to pump them.
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask that if this was intended for townwide or as an incentive for IAs
Right.
to install an IA system.
As was discussed, it was townwide because it was trying to actually deal with the places not IA.
Right.
But you could do it that way too. I mean,
I think
that's certainly another option.
I like that.
Tying it to IA would be more beneficial and not disable the funding for the wastewater treatment plant.
Scott, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, Rob, this is really an interesting statistic here. I'm wondering if there's actually two costs associated with converting people from on-site systems to collection centralized. One would be this one, loss of revenue. Would it also be true that by doesn't the sludge disposal cost of the plant go up with more people on the collection system? And is that in addition to this loss of revenue from homeowners? Am I looking at that correctly?
I don't think so. So what this is talking about is not if you're being converted to sewer. This is saying as an incentive to folks that are not going on to sewer, you'd provide them free tipping fees effectively for when they pump their septic systems. So sewer is really not involved in that conversation. Second point, yes, the more people on the system, all costs go up, but they also bring with them the annual, what do you call those fees? The annual-
Yeah, their annual sewer fees are
Annual
higher than
sewer
their
fees.
fees to pump their septic system every 3 to 5 years.
So that 25% will change vastly once if everybody's hooked up. I mean, the amount of
Plus, it's a cost that we don't control.
Yeah.
Those costs may change materially, drastically. Who knows, right?
The
Where
disposal
do we
costs
send
might-
everything to Rhode Island right now? And they may shut that thing down. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, and Andy's looking into some really interesting alternative options on that right now.
Right.
And stuff, so he's already going down the rabbit hole of trying to figure that thing out.
I don't think we.
But the point, Scott, to this is that, and we may have miswritten it, and I apologize if it's confusing. This was really just talking about really Chris's district, people like there that aren't going to get the sewer. What's in it for me? You know, what kind of benefit could we get? Kind of thing. This is what that's trying to at least talk to.
Actually, variation on that, you're making me think differently here. Is it reasonable to think that in the winter when there's less septage being generated, that we have a septage sale and maybe give a discount in the winter if you want to even out the flow? I don't know if
I
that,
don't know if people would want to dig their backyards up in the winter time. I mean, they could.
there's
I mean,
there's been no snow the last couple of years.
Oh,
Sorry.
you just come on. As the people that actually have to remove it, we don't say that in this building.
Anyway, thanks everyone for coming. That was,
Oh, we're doomed.
Sorry.
It's good.
Oh, I'm out. Pain. Pain.
Oh, well. Anyways, that was an idea.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I'm calling you at 3 in the morning when we're here like the third day in a row saying, you did this.
Yeah,
This
I
is
know.
you.
Okay.
Full September.
I know.
So, anyway, this is the last page.
God.
Yeah, so I just want to, Brian, you're chairing the meeting. I do have one item I want to bring up that might take a few minutes of discussion regarding financing of on-site systems. I'm wondering if this is a good time or?
Yeah, so are we all set with these? This is the 4 pages. You guys all have a copy of it.
Yeah.
Take them back. We're going to chew on them this month. There's things there to think about, and we'll reconvene in October on this. All right, cool.
I
We
think
got
we're all
this.
agreed on that.
So now we can just pull Scott up as a full screen so we can see that, and then we can go into a finance discussion.
Go ahead, Scott.
All right. Well, thank you.
So we had Mark Milne a few weeks ago back, and got talking about financing. Just to kind of set the stage here. Remember, we had an indication that SRF funding might be available for NR systems. That's likely not to happen now. DEP's changed their mind. They've recommended the Community Septic Management Program as a financing vehicle. However, that has become unclear as to exactly how that would happen. I've spoken with Nate Keenan, who runs the Clean Water Trust, which is the source of the SRF funds. I've spoken with some senior people at DEP. I understand that there's some guidance being developed on how we might finance these NR systems, but frankly, nobody seems to really have great knowledge about how to do this. So I decided to reach out to Andy Gottlieb. I had a coffee meeting with him and we had a good discussion because, as I think most people know, Andrew's been pretty successful at developing financial legislative initiatives to fund wastewater. He kind of accepted the challenge, I guess, saying, yeah, I think I can help, but this is going to take some time. And if I were to dig into this and help you guys, I would want to do this sort of with sort of a contract and a scope of work with the town of Barnstable. Andrew's the executive director of the Association to Preserve Cape Cod, but apparently they work on specific town projects and initiatives. So he suggested that I reach out to Mark Milne, which I did. I told Mark about our meeting, and he was going to talk with the town manager, Mark Ells, about this. But apparently, as of last week, that connection had not been made. And I understand Mark Milne has been on vacation. So I spoke with Rob about this, and he suggested that I bring it to the committee and get sort of a formal request, because this might even take some funding. I don't think a lot frankly. But I think there might be some funding to hire Andrew through the Association of Preserve Cape Cod to work on this specific issue about financing for NR systems. And frankly, I think it would be really helpful, because my read after talking to all these people I mentioned earlier is nobody really has a good handle on this. It's somewhat of a complicated issue, but I think we need to study it a little more closely, and I think Andrew might be helpful. So I'll leave it there. I know Z has maybe some thoughts on this, and certainly Rob, because I've been involved in discussions with both of you, so maybe I'll let you guys add to what I've said so far.
Do we need a motion on this? Sounds like.
I think so. I think Rob suggested, Rob, I hope I'm not speaking out of school here, but I think you suggested to me that the committee, it might be better, more powerful if we can get the committee to recommend funding this and working this relationship to get this work done.
Yeah, no, I think what we were talking about was that the committee would, however it did it, either agree or disagree with that. Scott, as the chair, then can go to, with me, go to the town manager, or obviously, Scott, you have direct connection to town council because you're appointed through there as chair, and have those kind of conversations. But as there will be a money conversation to that, it's probably a good idea to make sure the whole committee is sort of on board that that's something that we want to do. I will tell you right now, there is no existing pot of money for this, so there'll have to be a conversation about where that money would come from to hire Andrew Gottlieb to do this. Now, maybe Mark Milne has a pot somewhere that he'd want to come out of or something of that nature. But as we talked about it, Milne was on vacation anyway, said, well, let's talk to the committee. Let's make sure the committee's on board. Then we can start having conversations with Mark Ells. I've given him a heads up, by the way, Scott, that conversation may be coming. But wanted to let you guys all weigh in and opine on it and see what people thought.
This is funding for a RME, how to finance a RME, is that what you're talking about? No. I'm not sure exactly if I know.
For the systems themselves.
For the systems themselves.
Okay.
In other words, there's been conversations about how do we pay for this, right? And so there have been SRF funding conversations. You can use SRF funding to build, the plant, to upgrade the plant. Well, why can't we use that same SRF funding for the community? And then there's a lot of conversations about, well, you can't use public money on private property. That was a whole conversation. But of course, there are grinder pumps that are on private property, so those do get paid for. So there's, kind of a trail of financial decisions. Rob brought up the idea that the town might be able to bargain collectively to purchase systems, just the systems themselves at lower cost. The SRF funding, Scott, you can correct me, kind of was going down the road in Wellfleet to be able to do it just for the systems themselves, but not for the actual installation of those systems. That got green lighted and then it got red lighted. I think it was probably a state financing consideration at that point in time, right?
Yeah, there was.
But in my mind, Scott, maybe this gets wrapped into, because I don't think we're going to be able to decide it quickly. I don't think it's going to get done right away anyway. But if it gets wrapped into the bigger conversation of how do we develop a legislative initiative or a legislative change initiative to understand how to provide different funding mechanisms for these alternatives, that could be part of it. And Andrew would certainly be the right guy to be part of that. Because that might include different things, not just SRF funding, but also potential local tax credits or other mechanisms that the local community might have, which to me is not just a town of Barnstable question anyway, right? It's going to be every town on the peninsula and the islands are going to have skin in that game.
Yes.
So that's my view, my 2 cents. Yeah, it should be included, but it should be included as part of the package to say, we should pursue this, this should be on the agenda, we should be willing to spend some money to figure out what are the right mechanisms to do it. Mark Milne will have skin in that game, etc. But I don't think it's a quick thing.
Z, you seem to be recommending, at least on one hand, that the entire county be involved in this.
Well, I think that certainly is a potential consideration. I mean, I haven't seen anybody like the Cape Cod Commission try to take this on. They just came out with a 400-page report that I haven't been able to wade through yet. But, you know, I mean, it's the kind of thing that collectively, but that may just be further complicating, right, the conversation. So let's not make it a giant thing that never gets done. If we can focus on a smaller thing and get, you know, some help with some communities.
Scott, how did Andrew see the opportunity to work on this through the town of Barnstable versus kind of a regional piece? I mean, a lot of times one town takes something on and it becomes a great example that everybody grabs onto, and that's a good method to move forward for sure. But I didn't know whether he was thinking also.
Well, I brought it to him wearing this hat as the Barnstable CWMP. You're right, other towns are interested for sure, but I don't know that every town is interested. So at this point, but I brought it to him in the context of the Barnstable CWMP and my discussions with Mark Milne. Frankly, you know, I think Mark did a great job looking into this, but nobody seems to have a really great handle on how to make this community septic management program a really viable funding mechanism. So I feel like it needs some attention. And when I started thinking about who I know who might be helpful here, again, I thought about Andrew. And the good news is he's willing and interested in doing it. So I think we didn't talk about a specific fee, but my guess is this is pretty short money in the context of the CWMP. So it strikes me that you know, if we're going to head in this direction, which it sounds like we are, we should be planning ahead a little bit for financing and how we can fund these things.
Thank you for scouting that out, evaluating that, and speaking to Andrew on it. So I'll make a motion. I'll move that we request that town manager to pursue contracting with APCC to evaluate financing options for IA systems. Is that?
Would it be the association or would it be Andrew individually?
He's working on behalf of his company. Is that? Oh,
APCC.
he's working on behalf of APCC, isn't he?
That's my understanding, yes.
I guess so.
Okay.
I would second that.
Well, are we all, any more comments?
We'll have to do a roll call.
Yeah.
Did you want to have it written as ABCC?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, and that's how you had it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was just clarifying whether he was as an individual or representing the group.
All right, so roll call for this motion.
Understood.
Luis O'Neill,
Yes.
Glenn Snell,
Yes.
Butch Roberts,
Yes.
Tom Cambereri,
Yes.
Zeke Rocker,
Yes.
Brian Hughes,
Yes.
Scott Horsley,
Yes.
Councillor Starr,
Yes.
and Councillor Clark.
Yes.
You see, it passes.
All right, Scott, let's you and I talk about, we'll set up a meeting with Mark and we can go have that conversation. To Z, to your point, should we come up with a scope or let Andrew come up with a scope? Do you know my point? Like, should we go to Andrew and say, this is a scope we want executed? Or do we go to Andrew and say broadly, this is what we're thinking, give us a scope and fee, and then we'll sort of zero in off that?
Yeah, that would be
I think we need to talk about holistically and have him come up with the proposal.
Okay.
No? Scott, what do you think?
I agree.
Can't give him everything, but he's smart. He's been through all this stuff. So
When I spoke with him, he felt there's a good chance this may require some legislation at the state level to make this work. So that may be, I mean, I was hopeful that it might just be interpreting the existing program, the community septic management program. You know, one of the end goals in my mind is the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund. They have the ability to offer a 25% loan forgiveness as they do with SRF. And the good news is when I read the legislation that created that, it specifically speaks about INA septic systems. So it strikes me that they do have the ability to offer that grant, that loan forgiveness, which is an important part of the program, I think. But Andrew seemed to think there might be some legislative requirements to really make this work really well, and that's something that I have very limited experience with, and he has a lot of experience with. So I think Zee's right. I think we need to ask him. He did say he's very busy, so I don't think he's going to try to make this into more than it needs to be. But I think he probably has the best perspective on how to scope this thing out.
Agreed.
So it sounds like we don't really know what the time frame of this is. It could be a few months, could be a few years.
I don't think it would be that long.
Well, if he's saying it has to go through the legislature.
Oh, well, that would be.
Yeah,
The end
that would be
product,
a while.
but not his.
It's really complicated, but I think it's a good first step.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, it's interesting because Andrew was largely an IA skeptic, but he's a clean water champion. So I think you know, it's an interesting position to put him in, actually, and have him.
I also think, Z, that a lot of people who have been IA skeptics are getting slightly less skeptical because they're looking at the data.
Well, they're also looking at the money.
Yeah.
It was great when you thought the federal government was going to give us money. Well, when's that going to happen?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Anyway, good idea. What else we got, Brian?
What do we have? Oh, well, we sort of, public comments questions. Do we have any public?
Did you print it out?
I did.
I'll bring something up if you don't mind. That
Okay.
was sent to me through a counselor from a constituent, and I believe Chris printed out the comments, but it was from John Lynch, who had visited previously. He's probably watching, or will be watching when the recording goes live. He had just a couple of points that he wanted to sort of reinforce regarding grinder pumps. So Chris will hand those out, and again, it's just sort of some of his thoughts related to some of the topics we'll discuss, things like potentially considering a credit for properties based with needing a grinder pump, perhaps looking at the town negotiating for lengthier warranties with the company providing grinder pumps.
Oh, sorry.
So there's just a couple of thoughts there that he wanted passed along to the committee.
Yes, we have talked about grinder pumps in the past, and is something we're going to have to throw into the consideration at some point.
It's probably worth just taking time to review those, and we can revisit at a future meeting.
Yeah, I haven't read through all this yet, but I did have some additional thoughts about the grinder situation as well. And I guess I would put it under the tent of the role of, not so much the role, but the topics under consideration for the ad hoc committee. And so we have spent, if we looked at the agenda that was set out in January, there was a multitude of topics in regards to the CWMP, this giant project. And we have been spending a lot of time on this issue of the IA systems, which it totally deserves. But there are a whole number of other issues. And so when we talked about the grinder pump issue that I guess John brought up, I forgot his name, but it was was a topic that I thought deserved some additional thought. And and I'm not sure whether all the committee's work is like heads towards policy recommendations to the town council to say we want a new policy, we want you to change the regulations. I kind of wonder, are some of our our role could be, recommendations of things to look at within the next 5 years that would come up. So not say, look, we need to act on this now, but these are things that we want to work, that we want to have recognized and the town to work on. It would probably be DPW that would be the onus of things that might fall on to evaluate these things. So the one thing that I had was thought about was this grinder pump issue, and I had some thoughts on that, and I shared it with Chairman Scott and some of the staff, and just would like to in light of this
Chris has it.
letter.
If you would like, I can print it off for everyone.
Oh yeah. So we can hand that out, and I don't expect we to have a lot of and then
What is it? What are you looking at?
I just came up with this as a kind of an advisory. I guess I titled it recommendations, but it's actually more of the grinder pump topic for consideration for how we would for what the committee might want to consider in a discussion and what would make sense. And so it stood out to me that within the CWMP that we have, that we don't have an estimates of the number of grinder pumps that are a part of the project. And to me it seems like, well, that is part of the project. That is kind of a major part of the project that will hit people differently than other folks that are on the sewer that can just hook up. So I had some kind of thoughts of the type of information that should be available that would require some additional work to assess, evaluate, and to provide as a guidance towards this, because this is, we're just starting the sewer hookups for everybody. And so we've talked about IEAs where sewer hookups aren't coming for a while. We want to fast track that, but the big part is money-wise is everybody hooking up. And part of this is the grinder pump issue. And I looked at Chatham, and they know the number of estimates of systems that will need to go in, and they have some interesting public information that people that has been put together. And I have looked at, Kelly, the stuff that you gave me, and I thought that was really good. But I think it seems that it could use another step of assessment work and relate the issue to the people of the town as to what the aspects of the grinder pump issue is. And so that's all I have to say on that. And this was, I put it down as title is recommendations, but I don't assume to think that these are the recommendations that should go forward. That this was just for conversation, discussion at a subsequent meeting.
Does anyone actually have anywhere near a concrete figure of how many grinder pumps will be required?
We're not going to know until we actually do the designs.
Do the what?
To do preliminary designs on the infrastructure.
Okay, so the technical decisions get made during the preliminary design phase. We have schematic layouts of the system, but we evaluate each road, each property as we work through the design. So the schematics that are in the CWMP are effectively a guess based on topography, and then we have to work out the details as we get into the design. So, I mean, with 12,000 properties being connected, we can't evaluate every property at this stage. It's just not.
And a lot of that will depend on, it's sort of multivariable calculus. So if you put the pump station deeper and you put the sewers deeper, then what does that equate to in terms of cost, in terms of other problems? But that also then allows other homes to connect in that might have been on the grind. That it all goes back and forth in those conversations. We had a road where initially it was supposed to be gravity. When we started taking really hard looks at it, the gravity was going to be how many feet underwater? Pretty big.
Yeah, it was 15, 20 feet.
You know, and you start looking at some of the other technical issues that came with that, and there was a limited number of homes. It became obvious that probably a better solution technically was to go to ground pumps. But those, if we had made an estimate from the beginning, we wouldn't have assumed. So, I don't think you can tell person X, you're going to definitively have this or this until we get a chance to actually do preliminary design of that neighborhood and see how that's all shaking out.
I guess I'm thinking that it would just be, an estimate that you could apply some type of, metric, some type of elevation control, whatever, to estimate those areas. Not to say that
To date, do we know the answer as to how many people have grinder pumps that have been hooked up?
We can get you that answer. I don't know off the top of my head. I know there have been a few on the project.
I'm just curious. I don't know. Is it 3%, 5%, 20%?
I order of magnitude.
Small. It's small
Yeah,
It's not a huge number.
right now.
Yeah.
The 2 projects that have been completed, I don't know the number.
We've worked hard to try to minimize that.
It's on the order of a dozen plus on the projects that have connected to date. Stewart's Creek was more substantial because there were sections that were designed as low pressure sewer. The ones that have required grinder pumps in the 2 projects we've completed were because the homes were low lying.
And that was going to be the point I was going to say is you also, even if you have the preliminary design, it still is based off your individual property characteristics.
Right,
It's what
right,
we tried to explain to
yeah,
Mr. Lynch because
We are now
one
getting
that-
into projects where we have to design low pressure sewer systems as opposed to designing a gravity sewer that goes by a house that's low lying and they have to pump up to the gravity sewer system.
Right.
That's a condition we currently have with the 2 projects we've done.
Right.
Upcoming projects are going to have pressure pipes where everybody along that road needs to have a grinder pump, so they don't have a choice in there. It's not
So we're still not at a point where we or anyone could say to town council, this is gonna cost X for the property owners. The X property owner is gonna have grinder pumps, they're gonna have to spend money on this. And if we want the town council to say.
To date,
It depends.
wait.
Depends on what the question is, because the policy to date has been that we purchased the grinder pump for the resident
For the
first time, correct.
How much are those pumps? About
Probably $5,000 at this point.
Roughly $5,000. I don't have a recent number.
$5 each, so we're giving people $5,000 to start with.
Right.
I mean, that's
Yes.
very.
And there is documentation too that we have, which obviously can probably be updated from the manufacturer, where the service calls or people are concerned about these additional fees, but it's really nominal. I mean, we're talking about 15 plus years of life out of a grinder pump, minimal upkeep. As long as you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So to the point, we're giving $5,000 away, and the extra expense is pretty nominal.
I saw Chatham had estimated 9,000 to 10,000. I don't know why they had that.
Yeah, we've been buying and
Everyone
they've been
keeps talking
less than
about
that.
Chatham.
Yeah, it's,
So it's about 5,000.
I can get an updated price from our most recent purchase and share it with the committee.
Yeah.
It's $5,000 to $6,000. It's in that order.
It just seems that given the project's size and the cost, that there could be a better relation, a better communication or about the number and what the costs are, and to the point that you don't know what's going to happen until you do the design piece. I think that's what I kind of tried to incorporate under that item number 3 is that what's as your contractor's going through this issue is. I think it's very interesting. I think it would be very informative to have some of the initial designs that you're moving forward with to be able to be consumed by the lay public to see what goes into that.
Chris.
Thank you. So the $17,000 estimated hookup fee that was recommended by Director Milne, does not include the,
That was a betterment, that wasn't the hookup fee.
oh, that's the betterment, okay, got it, okay.
That was the original assessment, right?
No, the assessment, excuse me.
The assessment, that was the assessment.
So it's back to the betterment, but that was the assessment, and then town council decided to make that 10
Yeah,
and stuff. That's not the hookup fee, that's a different thing
That's the
altogether.
pipe in front of your house on the road.
got it,
Right.
okay.
And the lateral essentially.
And the cost of the grinder pump is in addition to that.
The grinder pump costs ultimately get paid for out of the project appropriation, the
Yeah.
capital appropriation for the project.
So has the estimate of, per parcel that was 17,000, has that increased?
It was never 17.
Well, the estimate was 17,000,
That was the, I guess for lack of a better term, subsidized estimate.
got it, okay.
Yeah, that was the recommended betterment. The estimate's
Recommended.
always been significantly higher than that.
To me, the trouble with this is that in some cases, people might need multiple pumps. No?
Really?
If it's a long stretch, don't you need
They
more than
shouldn't. No,
one,
these-
or
no,
can one still take
No,
care
this
of
is
it?
gonna go away.
These are very,
These can go
they're very
forever.
powerful. There's
Okay, so they can go hundreds of feet, no problem.
absolutely.
Okay. But you're still paying for the distance, right?
Paying to put,
Isn't
you're
that
paying
right?
to put an
I'm just thinking of it like, okay, I live down a road and I want electric power. I pay less money if my house is right there
Mhm.
than I do if you've got to run that line
Yep.
hundreds of feet to where my house is. I mean, so it's like,
That's
in the land of fairness, I don't know how you, okay, the pump is part of it, but it's not the whole thing.
right. It's
I
really,
don't know.
it's not any different for a gravity connection. There are plenty of gravity connections that are set back that have to run a pipe
Are there? Okay. Fair enough.
significantly further than somebody who's 20 feet from the road, right? So it ultimately is based on the circumstances of the property.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I guess my point in understanding the cost of the grinder pump and the subsidized estimate is the town council could revisit that. If it was, I mean, well, it might be an opportunity to look at this more holistically again and say, okay, now that we've got some traction with this plan and we've got some experience, it could be one of the suite of proposals going before the council in the future.
I
Just
think
saying.
Mark's actually coming in to talk to you on the 18th about, Mark Milne.
Yeah.
He's coming in to talk about financing in general and wastewater in general and stuff of that nature, so.
And just so you know, I did sign up to go to Cape Cod Commission's One Cape Summit in Harwich. And on the second day, there's a presentation named or titled Local Progress, Advancing Wastewater Implementation and Improving Water Quality. And the panelists are Jeff Colby, DPW Director in Yarmouth, Andrew Gottlieb, Gary Moran, Deputy Commissioner for Mass
Gary
DEP,
Moran. Yeah.
and Aaron Perry. So I'm just saying that this will be a topic that perhaps can give us a update, sure. But anyways, I'm just saying that when it comes to financing, I think that I'd be open to revisiting that the hookup fee. If you're looking for equity, that's where I would see that it would be better applied than a free pump out.
Just as a favor, stop, don't call it hookup fees.
Oh, I know, I'm sorry.
You'll completely confuse
Yeah,
people with
well, I'm confused. so.
which way it's
I
going.
already get those questions all the time.
Yep.
It only costs me this much to hook up? Nope.
Nope, oh, that's your assessment. The hookup fee is different.
Right, got it, thank you.
I do have one more, Brian, when you're done with this topic.
Is there any more comments on this grinder?
Other than, you know, I think it's a topic that, you know, the committee could opine on and identify for additional elucidation.
Just looking when they're ready to make a recommendation, yeah.
Yeah. And, yeah, so that's it.
Okay.
So the last thing was just a sort of announcement to the committee. During the interim period from the time that we had our last meeting to this meeting, we did open the bids for the plant. We are under budget. We are under the allocated amount, so we are proceeding forward with awarding that contract. So we are excited that the bids came in where they did and stuff, and so we are moving forward with haste.
Just while we're announcing bids, we also opened the bids for the Route 28 West sewer
Oh, that's right,
expansion
that happened in
project,
between too.
which was also under budget.
Oh, great.
And
So what was
it's
the first thing you were talking about?
Headworks?
The nitrogen,
The
nitrogen upgrades at the
Oh, the
plant.
plant.
Water
Yeah,
Okay.
plant.
control
Oh,
facility,
good.
yeah.
Good.
So both those came in under, and Griffin did call it on both of them. So for the office pool,
That's
I was
good.
within 100 grand.
he was within 100 grand on the plant.
Was that the
Pretty
Long
good.
Pond one too, the design? Was that-
No, the RFPs have been received for Long Pond and we're reviewing them right now. But no, that was for the Route 28 West.
So that's
sewer
great.
expansion.
So Route 28 West construction,
That
we've opened that
extends-
bid,
Yeah.
and we've opened the bid for the plant, both of which were under what we had allocated.
So if we had a over/under on start dates for these things, and it's
We
like,
have a pre-construction meeting coming up in a couple of weeks for the 28 West project, so we anticipate that work will start probably November.
So
Oh, so soon.
so my guess is the pre-construction meeting for the plant will probably be November, early December, with construction probably starting right after the holidays.
So keep an eye out. There will be more communications, media releases, website updates,
Yeah, on the plant side,
videos,
one
bunch
thing,
of things.
one of the things I've asked Chris to do is sort of, Griffin's project managing 28, I'm project managing the plant, because obviously they're both very large and we're trying to divide and conquer. I've asked Chris to say both to me on the plant side, and then sort of, while it's going on, do video snippets, do things of that nature, so the general public has a sense of what's going on, what's been going in. Hey, today I'm out by the pouring of the concrete for the pick the thing, you know, stuff that I have no imagination for, but he's actually really good at. So,
so
doing
do you
that.
have to tear down stuff for the plant to build it, or what is?
It's kind of built next to it. There will be
Yeah,
parts of it that
and then
come
you-
down, but it's
Go
not.
over there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we-
keep the plant active throughout, so.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So there's sort of sequencing to it.
Right.
But yeah, there'll be a new headworks building that's built, so that's the old will no longer be necessary. One of the clarifiers will be coming out because that's where the area where the new headworks building is going to go. There is that going on.
Well, that would be exciting.
Yeah.
Not that the old plant's not wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I did a tour.
Looking forward to it.
And then afterwards, we'll do a new tour of the new plant. And
You're not gonna tear down the building from 1935, are you?
Nope.
Okay, that's good.
Good stuff.
The water treatment plant, it's straight
Straight way.
It's starting.
Just held the pre-construction meeting
Yes.
last week.
Yep, I'm organizing.
Work will be starting in a
an
couple
event
weeks.
on that for
What
that.
was it, 40 million? 41? Something like that.
I forget the
30
final
million.
number at this point,
Yeah.
yes, it was
Yep.
expensive.
Wow.
How long for the nitrogen part of it? Construction?
I think if I remember correctly, it's like a 3-year total construction. But there'll be aspects of that that are done previously. You know, I need to get the contractor in here and start looking at what their schedules are when they're going to get aspects of that thing built.
Well, roughly 3 years.
Yeah, they were given, I think, 3 years, yeah.
I think it's like a 3-year. I don't have it in front of me, so don't quote me. But the good news is I was having a few sleepless nights going into that bid, hoping we were making it. And we made it, so that was good.
Good. Congratulations.
Yes. All right, so there's matters not reasonably anticipated to the chair.
I think I just did it. Sorry.
Well, I just, you might have read in the Cape Cod Times about the Sagamore Bridge environmental impact report that was available. So I went to look for that and on the MIPA website, and I found something that surprised me. I didn't know it was there, but it was an ENF for the town of Falmouth wastewater discharge into Nantucket Sound. So it's like for 3 million gallons of water, wastewater a day, ocean discharge.
Untreated?
No,
it's
tertiary treated. But it was interesting. So it's the ENF for that. So that's out for review and comment to make sure they hit all the things that they need to in the actual environmental impact report. But that's very surprising. Yeah.
They've been working on that for a long time.
Yeah, it's been in the works a long time as an alternative, but there it is now. Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Speed ahead.
Move to adjourn.
Nope.
Do I hear a second?
Yeah. Second.
All right.
hang on. Let's do this real quick.
Oh,
This isn't the hard one, Chris.
Sorry, I know it's not the hard one. Louise O'Neill,
Yes.
Glenn Snell,
Yes.
Butch Roberts,
Yes.
Tom Camberary,
Yes.
Z. Crocker,
Yes.
Brian Hughes,
Yes.
Scott Horsley,
Yes.
Gordon Starr,
Yes.
Chris Clark.
Yes.
Everyone have a wonderful evening. Get home safe.
Thank you all for your time.